But this sits up high on the carburetor, so most of the time gas doesn't sit there and gum it up. It'll fall down into the lower part. Usually the lower part of the carburetor is clogged more than the upper. And then there's two little teeny holes right behind there, and those are directly behind this Welch plug. And again, 99% of the time I never have to remove a Welch plug, especially these ones. These are so difficult because if you have to cut into there, or you have to take a sharp awl, dig in there, pop it out, and it is such a hole in there that you'll end up damaging the holes behind there. So don't remove it unless you absolutely have to, and you cannot get those cleared out by using a little wire and clearing it out from the inside, by spraying carburetor cleaner. Mine are spraying good. The carburetor cleaner removes old built-up gas really fast. Okay. Next we have our throttle position right up here. This is actually our idle, just speed adjustment. And if you want to remember where it is, set it back to exactly what it is. Count the turns it screws in, pull it out, and then screw back in the same amount. I'm going to mark the top of mine so I know exactly where it's at. But then I'm going to screw it in. 1 turn, 2, 3, 4. That's 5 screws, like exactly. And it's rubbing on the little jet below it. So it's stripping it off, but we can still see it. So 5 screws exactly. We have to pull this out because this is also a retainer with a little jet below it. But I can still, let me wipe off. I can still see where I had it. I'll do a second to dry. Set that aside. Okay, and then our little jet below it, it just pops right out. Pops straight up. And it'll consist of, again, just a little teeny hole in the middle, and then a larger hole on the outside. We'll just take our carb cleaner real fast. And I feel some resistance in there. Suri actually has some a lot finer copper wire. I didn't want to force it, I wanted to go in easy. There we go. Yeah, I don't know if you guys can see it going in there, but it's in. So now I know that the hole's not obstructed. It's spraying good. Set that aside. Now, the little passage we pulled it out, it actually has 2 passages. It has one that goes straight down, the teeny hole, and so we'll spray down, see if it, make sure it's picking up gas. And you can see this coming from the lower area, so it's picking up gas. And then the air part is what we already sprayed through. That was the same one we just sprayed through that feeds back to there. And there's a little O-ring that sits on there, so let's make sure that's not damaged. Make sure everything looks clean in there. It is. Snap it back in. Take our idle screw. Screw it all the way in, and then we were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 screws out, exactly where it was before. Now we have our air passage on the other side. We already did this one. Now we have this one, and this is the one that feeds the main tube. It feeds air down to the emulsion tube right here. The blades that blends the fuel and air. And generally that's, I mean, because it's just passing air, that's generally never dirty. But you can see, a lot of times you can tell where the passages go to, because you can see it's drilled back to here. But then you also see a brass BB, and that's usually where they, you know, because they have to drill down. So they actually drilled down through there along this passage, and then it bleeds right back down into there. So, again, everything's clear, clean. Just make sure, again, everything sprays nice and fluid. Make sure your throttle right here, sometimes if it gets too old, this will start sticking. Spray out the whole thing. Spray out your bowl. Take the tip of your needle, I like to spray a rag, and I like just to wipe it lightly clean. So that's good. Take our fuel inlet, spray through that one time. That sprays just fine. You can spray the other way if you want. This is just an air vent. Just bleeds to, just allows atmospheric air to just sit in here. There's nothing to it. But that's it. Put it back together. Pretty basic. Really no adjustments. And 99% of the time you don't need to replace anything. Like, everything's just needs to be clean. Just the teeniest little bit will cause an engine to run a little afoul. But I just drop that back in, put this back in. And the way you tell, say your engine's flooding and you're not sure if you cleaned your needle and if it's going to leak, is put your mouth on the fuel inlet right here and just lift up the float and blow in there and drop the float. And just the weight of the float by itself should shut off any air. If you hear just a little teeniest, a little bit of a hissing, that means that your needle's going to leak. That seal is perfect. So if you're blowing as hard as you can, don't push down on it. Don't use any finger pressure. But just the weight of the float itself, if you can blow any air in there, if you even leaking just a little bit, it's going to leak. And you know you don't got it fixed. You can pull back out. You can try wiping it off again. Make sure there's not a little debris or something stuck in there. Okay. Let's take our emulsion tube. Again, I like to spray through it just one last time. Again, compressed air will never show you all the jets. You can't see them. By me doing this, I can actually rotate it and see that every single hole is spraying in the pattern of every single hole as well. I can see, you know, if there's a mild block, it probably won't spray out straight. It'll spray out crooked or something to that effect. It all sprays out beautifully. That just drops back in. Take our main jet. That's beautiful. Drop that back in and just snug it up. Take our bowl, and you want this thing to be at the front, because this is what you loosen this screw and it drains the fuel out. Which, if you want your engine carburetor never to clog when you're done using it, pop off the front cover and just drain the fuel out. It'll take a couple more cranks to get it started the first time, the next time, but that'll do it. Again, let's put it back. Don't forget the little spring that goes right in there. Make sure this operates smoothly. Sometimes I actually put a drop of, this is actually transmission fluid, but you can do really, really light oil right at the bottom. Right there, and it'll fall down in a little pocket. And some carburetors, different makes, actually have a little felt pad up here that holds a little bit of oil. You can oil that just to make sure that's moving nice and fluid. Okay, completely back together. Put it on choke. Turn it on. It'll probably take a couple pulls because the carburetor is completely drained, but the problem's fixed. It was running, didn't want to run off choke for, you could start it up. You'd actually have to let it warm up for 45 seconds, 60 seconds before you could fully shut off the choke, which shouldn't be, especially on a warm day. You should be able to, even on a cold day, you should be able to shut that choke off after 10 seconds or so and shouldn't need it. So, problem I had is fixed now. Hey, thanks for watching. I also have a video up there how to make a parallel kit for these, at home for around 40 bucks or so, how to make a parallel kit where you can run a full 30 amps and run your RV off of 2 of them or so. So watch that, click on my other videos. But hey, if you haven't already, like, subscribe, rate,